Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of my podcast. Today's podcast is entitled Is Knowledge Power? And as usual, I will start this podcast off with a quote: Knowledge isn't power until it is applied. And that's a quote by Dale Carnegie. Seeking and acquiring knowledge is only the start. I know that, in life, we're always instructed to, go to school, get a degree, get your education, learn as much as you can, and then get to the workforce to be a successful um, entrepreneur, or to be a successful employee, rather. Not an entrepreneur. The world largely teaches us to be employees over entrepreneurs, but, learn as much as you can learn to be a successful employee, and then exist, thrive, work, and have success within your company, and then, you know, thrive throughout that company for a number of years and retire. But, all of that hinges upon application. Even in the real world, well, that is the real world, but even talking outside of a company or organized structure, in self-development, like what we talk about largely on this podcast, if you acquire all this knowledge, if you listen to every one of my podcasts, you've listened to all of Dave Ramsey on YouTube, all of Eric Thomas on YouTube, David Goggins, you have all of this information. If when the time comes you don't apply that information, then it's all for naught, because knowledge is only power when it's applied. If you just have knowledge, then at that point in time that you have the knowledge stored up and you have access to it, knowledge then holds the potential. It has the potential to be something powerful. It has the potential to yield change or to give you desired result. But until you actually apply the information, it doesn't make that transition over to being power or to showing power. An example I thought of when I was creating this podcast was in the military. I was an engineer, and one of my tasks or objectives as an engineer was to build explosives in order to accomplish a goal, whether that was entry into a structure or demolition of a structure or an obstacle. You can use explosives for a number of things, but by and large, these explosives in and of themselves weren't powerful. And what I mean by that is they had the potential to be powerful when combined with the other elements that would cause it to react in a manner that it would explode. But by itself, just the explosive by itself, it wasn't very powerful. For instance, C4, which is a common explosive that we use in the military or that engineers use, it's like Play-Doh. You can mold it, you can shape it, you can put it in different configurations, you can wrap it up tight, you can do a bunch of things with it. And when you're utilizing it, nobody's really afraid that it's going to go off. There's always the potential that it could explode, but the right circumstances have to exist in order for that potential to become an actuality. So once we put the charge together and construct it in a fashion that we've been taught and instructed upon, to ensure that this now becomes something that has the power and the potential to yield an explosion, then that potential transfers into actual power, which is the execution of the demolition. So knowledge is potential. When we read books, when we go to school and we learn different things, when people come into our lives and they bless us with knowledge and experience, all of that stuff is potential. Knowledge is potential. It's stored up in the library for you to get access to and for you to utilize. But does it only becomes power when we actually take action upon it, when we actually utilize it in a real world situation. In the military, we call this the practical application. Potential is defined as having or showing the capacity to become or develop into something in the future. Just like I was talking about the explosive, at the time you're holding it, when you first get it delivered to you, it has the potential to explode, but it only has the potential to explode when it's created and combined in such a manner that the circumstances exist perfectly for that thing to explode. I'm not going to get too deep into it. If you want to learn how to do that type of stuff, go join the military. But I'm not going to get too deep into it. Anyways, I digress. You can read all the books, listen to the videos, audios, and gain immense knowledge. But without practical application, then that knowledge has no power. Again, this goes over what I've just been talking about. You can have a library that you refer to. You could have friends. I mean, we live in 2020. According to most scholars and people, researchers, we have access to the most information at any point in time in history. Like no other time in history has there been more access to knowledge than in 2020 in the current era that we live in. So knowing that, people should be experienced success and gaining, they shouldn't have questions about anything because we literally have information at the tip of our fingers, which people largely do take advantage of. And I'm not saying searching for information or finding that information is bad. Gain as much knowledge as you possibly can, but you know what's the purpose of getting that knowledge? Sometimes I like to just look up things to look up things, like how far is the earth from the moon. Yeah, I'm a nerd, but it's something that crosses my mind and I like to know. But what's the potential of that information? Like, why am I gaining it? I mean, it's just something that I could talk to or discuss with a fellow nerd or somebody like that. It's not something that I'm going to use in my career path or is going to dictate a job interview or something like that. But the things we discuss in these podcasts, motivational videos on YouTube, even instructional videos like how to fix a car engine or how to build a bridge or stuff like that. When you're looking up that information, all of that stuff is potential. It has the potential to impact your life in a meaningful way, but it doesn't become powerful until you apply it, until you execute whatever task based on that information. Like if it teaches you, if you're watching a video on how to build the car engine, at that point in time, you have the potential to build the car engine. You have learned how to build the car engine, but you haven't actually done it. You haven't actually executed that task. And there is a big gap between learning something and practical application. For instance, like something we used to see in the military was we'd have guys that had been overseas that were high ranking, but they were enlisted. And then we had officers that would just come out of college, and they had read books about it and they had studied theories and principles and, they've been to a lot of training and stuff like that. But there's all of that stuff is good, but there's something to definitely be said about practical application, about like hands-on training and experience. That kind of, I won't say that trumps book knowledge, but in my case, because I'm a very tactile learner, I learn by doing things. I can read tons and tons of books and I can get an idea of it and stuff like that, but I like to actually put my hands on what I'm trying to figure out, run into issues and problems, learn how to solve them, work through them, and then gain knowledge that way. And that's why I much more prefer like physical, actual tactical or tactile knowledge, practical knowledge of something, as opposed to just reading about it. Because you can read about it and then you can assume, oh, I know how to do this, it's going to be easy. But then when you actually get to doing the task or trying to accomplish it, I mean, you're going to run into things that the book may have not covered. You may you may stumble on things that somebody would experience would easily jump over that hurdle or have experience and know how to navigate around it. Another example I got is when I was learning how to fly. We did a lot of what's called ground school, where you study the theories and the principles and stuff around flight. And in ground school, they teach you like how you're supposed to, handle yourself if this happens, how to avoid this, and scenarios and stuff like that. Largely information that we have gained off of the mistakes or the misfortune of others. And so you get all of this information, you get all of this knowledge, and then you go to fly. And then when you sit in that seat and and you have the controls in your hand and you're about to go down the runway, you take off and fly, and then you get, I don't know, 500, 1,000 feet off the ground, and you know what you're supposed to do, but it's like it doesn't translate exactly how the book made it seem. Like it was going to be easy. Like you just do this and then the airplane just automatically does what you want. Like it takes skill, it takes reps, it takes experience, practical experience, hours and hours and hours of just being in the cockpit, actually holding the controls, seeing how the plane handles. You got the weather, the wind, all of the type of different factors that play into it. So like no 2 days will be the same. So you can read a book and a book is going to give you an example or instruction based on the perfect scenario and the perfect weather with a perfect airplane. And those situations, those factors rarely exist. So you can read a book and that'll give you some basic, that'll paint the picture. That'll be the rough outline. But actual practical knowledge is where you add the detail, like the colors and the finite detail. Like when you're a painter, you outline first and then you fill in later. That's what practical versus instructional or book knowledge is in comparison. Like book knowledge just like traces it and gives you an idea of what you're drawing or painting. And then practical knowledge is actually putting the details in, crossing all your T's and dotting all your I's. So having knowledge, gaining knowledge, obtaining knowledge, learning new things is like having a 1,000 horsepower car, but it's just sitting on the showroom floor. So we know, walking into this showroom and looking at this car, we're like, man, this car is extremely powerful. This car has the potential to beat, any of these cars sitting around us, right? But the key word in that sentence is potential. It really doesn't have the power or the action to beat any of these cars until it leaves that showroom. It's started up and it's actually lined up against these cars driving down the road. This car, 1,000 horsepower doesn't matter if the car isn't even turned on. How are you going to utilize that 1,000 powers or 1,000 horsepower if the engine isn't even running? So application is the key when it comes to learning and utilizing knowledge. So some common issues we run into with this whole, gaining knowledge and not applying it, or gaining knowledge and just holding on to it, which doesn't benefit us. We run into a few different scenarios. Some people have knowledge but don't have the power to use it. Other people have power but won't act on all the knowledge they know or have been given. And then the third situation is others have knowledge and power but just won't take action, even though they know their lives will be better if they acted on that information. And that last one is basically fear. All of these could be summed up in fear. Sometimes we get knowledge and we don't use that knowledge, or we don't take action based on that knowledge because of fear. Fear comes in many forms. It could be self-doubt. It could be like actual physical fear. Fear can manifest in many different forms. But one of the biggest hurdles to people taking action with the knowledge they've obtained is fear. And there's nothing to fear but fear in and of itself. We got to beat that. We got to jump that hurdle. It's just another hurdle. That's the only way we can look at it. Just something else that needs to be jumped over in order for us to succeed and reach our goals, to apply that knowledge that we have already obtained. It's not about knowing what to do. It's about doing what you already know needs to be done. I know through my podcast and through the several different episodes that I've recorded, I'm not sharing anything new. I'm not sharing any grandiose ideas. I'm not sharing anything that people haven't heard before. Especially like to my point in life, I like to believe that I'm sure there's some people out there that haven't heard some of the stuff that we're talking about. And my podcast is largely designed for you. I want to give you the knowledge and the benefit of some of this stuff as early as I possibly can, so that it may affect your life for the better and change your future for the better. But by and large, this information that I'm sharing is nothing new or groundbreaking. It's information that's out there, that's circulated commonly. A lot of people are saying what I'm saying, and a lot of people are putting it out there, and for those who are lucky, we have those role models in our lives that teach us this at a young age. And then we're able to have this foundation and these principles throughout our adult lives. But for those who don't, this may come as a shock, or it may just be a spark that lights a fire that gets, the ignition, the motivation, the drive going in your life. But I mean, now that you know this stuff, now that you have this knowledge, it's time to take action. The difference between knowledge and action is your mindset. Again, when I go, like I've said in previous podcasts, it all starts in the mind. It all starts in the mind. Thoughts lead to feelings, which lead to actions, which lead to results. Thoughts is the first step. It starts in your mind. If what you can conceive, you can achieve. If in your mind, this is where you want to go, the roadmap to get there. And then every time you face a hurdle, you see yourself getting through it, or you find yourself around it. You can have anything that you want, anything that you desire. What the mind can conceive, you can achieve. So it all starts in the mind. Thomas Edison once said, if we did things we are capable of doing, we would literally astonish ourselves. I believe that 110%, because there are things that I have done in my life that, are just inconceivable. Like I couldn't believe like I did that. Like even now when I look back on my life, some of the things that I've done are still things that astonish me to this day. I just look at the mindset that I was in, the place that I was in, emotionally, physically, and stuff like that, and just all the factors that surrounded my ability to be able to do what I did, and it just astonishes me. And I'm sure if you look back over your life, you may feel the same way, whether it's in high school playing sports or some type of trauma you went through that you made it through the other side, and learned and grew from it. But, we are capable of immense success, tasks, accomplishments. Like, we can do literally whatever we set our mind to. And, we were not created just to go to school, get a job, and work for the rest of our lives, and then retire and hopefully, go on vacation and enjoy our retirement if we've saved up enough money in our working years. We weren't just designed to do that. We were designed to do amazing things. And we're shorting ourselves by just living this rudimentary life. I feel I wasn't designed for it. Maybe you feel like you are where you need to be, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you feel like you were designed for more, I feel like you should act on that. You should 110% act on that. Achieving your potential isn't about dreaming big. It's about executing on the knowledge you have. By all means, dream big, but the most important step is action. Taking action. You can dream as big as you want to dream, but until you put action to the thoughts and the plans and the ideas that you have, they're just going to be plans. They're just going to be words on paper. It's going to take action to make that dream come alive. Consistent steps, consistent work, day in and day out, working towards your goal, your desire, and your dreams. Learning new knowledge and then applying that knowledge in order to take daily steps towards your goal. Just chipping away at it, like swinging a hammer at a wall, just chunks at a time until you knock that wall down. Or laying one brick at a time until you build that wall. You can look at it either way. Consistent application of the right knowledge at the right time will improve results significantly. Focus on execution simply works. Again, it's not only about execution, it's about executing or implementing the right knowledge at the right time. Because if you implement the wrong knowledge at the wrong time, then you could make yourself backslide, or you could hinder your progress. It's all about knowing it's all about gaining knowledge, taking action based on that knowledge, and implementing that knowledge at the right time. Knowing when to implement knowledge is wisdom. Because you can gain knowledge and you can spit it out, you can spurt it to a crowd or whatever, but actually knowing what that knowledge means, having an understand of it, contextually and conceptually, and then being able to apply it in the right setting. Now that's wisdom. And that's what we're searching for. That's what we're trying to obtain. Gaining knowledge, using that knowledge in the right application to guarantee ourselves success. And it works. It works. We just got to learn how to do it. And again, I'm not preaching to you guys like I'm perfect, like I'm sitting on a pedestal. I'm talking to myself too. I got to take action on some of the things that I've been dreaming about, that I've been writing down, goals, plans that I have. You know, it's about taking action. And I'm not taking any large sweeping actions. I'm taking small steps daily in order to ensure consistent progress instead of, hitting a failure and then just getting down on my whole process or my whole idea, my mission. Just take daily steps, and that'll save you from, large doubt, because every day is a small success in and of itself. So I know when I create these podcasts about, the way that we should be thinking and the way we should kind of design our intentional thought process in our day, I usually give, some steps that we can practice in order to help guide us down the road that we want to, kind of gear ourselves towards. And this is no different. So the following will be 6 ways to help you apply what you have learned in life. And this list is geared more towards self-development. For those who follow my podcast on Anchor, in the show notes, I'll have 2 links to some references that'll help you. And you can also do some digging yourself. But the 6 ways that I have listed in my podcast right here are mostly going to be for self-development. I'm sure you can find others for business or anything else that you're looking for, because there's literally information on everything out there. But these are self-development focused. So the first one is recognize the payoff in doing what you usually do. The second one is acknowledge what you lose by doing what you usually do. Now, I read those 2 back to back because another way of stating this is do a pros and the cons. This is what I normally do. These are the ways that it serves me. These are the ways that it doesn't serve me. And then weigh that. If it's doing more good than bad, then keep it in your life. If it's doing more bad than good, then maybe you need to reevaluate its position in your life. Maybe it doesn't need to be taken out of your life completely, but it may need to be pushed further down the list of priorities. That's basically what 1 and 2 are saying. It's basically a pros and the cons analysis. Number 3, take every opportunity to practice. Practice. If you gain knowledge and we're taking action on it, every presentation might not be the big one, but take daily efforts, or take any opportunity that you get to maybe do a presentation or speak to a small group of people or whatever. Just seek out opportunities to practice. If you're trying to be a quarterback, for your football team, and you've read books on the proper way to throw, you've read books on ways to work out, and you're applying this knowledge, every opportunity you get, if it might not even be at practice, like it might be sometime after school or, whatever the setting is, take time to just throw a ball, practice. If you want to get good at your craft, you have to practice. And you have to do the right type of practice. You can't just go out and screw around. You have to actually take practice that is geared and intentional in working towards your goal. Number 4, change your inner monologue. This is basically talking about the way that we talk to ourselves, that internal language, that internal voice. You need to be your own cheerleader. You can't, have the world berating you and belittling you, and then, turn inwardly and you belittle yourself. Like, positivity has to come from somewhere. That's why it's important to surround yourself with the right types of people, and then control the internal dialogue that you have with yourself. Understand your triggers. What makes you backslide? What makes you angry? What makes you sad? What gets you in your feelings? You have to understand yourself. You have to go on a journey, understand, what traumas you've been through, what hurdles and walls you've been over, what success you've had in your life, and understanding your triggers is another part of that journey. Because because I'm sure, some of your triggers, the world can see. And if they're able to play off those triggers, then they in turn can have some power over you. And you don't want somebody outside of yourself to have power over your emotions, power over you and your reactions. So learning your triggers is another way to practice self-mastery. And it's another way to initiate or act on the knowledge that you have obtained, which is self-knowledge. And track your progress. That's number 6. track your progress is a part of many different, I don't know what you call them, actions, tasks, um, principles of success. Because if you just do things daily, in and out, and you're not tracking your progress, how will you know where you started and where you are, or where you started and what you still need to work on? Track your progress, and it could be in a journal, a log. It could be an audio recording. Hey, today I did this or did that. Whatever way you want to. There's a lot of ways out there to track your progress, but track your progress, because then you'll be able to better evaluate your journey, instead of just going along and living any which way. This is a way of living intentionally, like intentionally doing things you need to do in order to develop yourself, so that you can become the person that you need to be in order to accomplish your goals. And that's what action is all about. The acting on your knowledge is all about. It's taking that knowledge and applying it in such a way that it not only transforms you but your environment into what you need it to be, in order for you to achieve and become that person you need to be for that dream or that goal that you have in the future. And I know I talk about it, and I make it seem like it's easy. It's not. It's a life journey, but life is a journey. It's not a destination. So as we take this journey, we're gonna hit walls, we're gonna stumble, we're gonna get in on low periods of our life, but this is where our foundation that we've talked about before, which you've gained through knowledge, self-mastery, self-discovery, and then all the other things we've done, all the other things we've obtained, like the knowledge we have of our past, of what we've successfully maneuvered around and got past, the other successes we've had in our life. All of that is knowledge that we can then take action on. It doesn't just have to be book knowledge or knowledge that you heard from audio you got from a teacher. It could be the knowledge that you obtained through your journey in life. And it may seem pointless or it may seem impractical until you get to that one hurdle, and then you apply that knowledge you learned from the hardship you had in 8th grade, and now all of a sudden you're able to bypass it that much easier. Life's a journey. So just enjoy the travel.